Welcome in college baseball central fans. Start of a new show. Jake McKeever here with Ryder, A&M superfan. Ryder, how are we feeling today? We're talking about the number one team in the country.
Oh, I'm feeling great. Heading to Ole Miss this weekend. I could not be more excited to watch my Aggies.
I'm excited too. I should say that's the RPI number one, not the poll number one. They did drop that series last weekend at LSU. But let's go ahead and jump into it. It was they lost 2-3 to LSU. They lost Friday, lost Saturday, avoided that Sunday sweep as they dominated. And they didn't run rule, but they run ruled the amount that they needed to run rule. It just came in the top of the ninth. Let's start with first thoughts. What did you see from Ryan Prager on Friday, and what do you think they did well in that game?
Honestly, on the Friday night game, I really think Ryan was his typical self. I think that LSU got a couple good swings. I think, honestly, though, it was more just the defensive cues. I don't think it was necessarily Ryan. I think Ryan was still kind of his typical, Prager that we've seen throughout the entire season, really just dominating the zone, really getting them to swing at those kind of those pitches, those nasty pitches that he has. But honestly, I don't think it was necessarily anything uncharacteristic of Ryan. I really think the Fridays game specifically was really just the defensive miscues. I think we finished with 3 errors on the night, and all 3 of those errors they scored a run. So I mean, I really think it was just so many defensive miscues that Friday game.
Yeah, it was Ryan Prager's first loss. He allowed 5 hits, 4 run, all of them earned, 2 walks, 2 Ks. Honestly, I think that that's what we're going to kind of expect from him as we kind of work against these tournament teams. He's somebody that loves to pound the zone. The walks are going to be down, but he is kind of a pitch to contact guy. Ali Camarillo had 2 home runs. I'm going to be honest, I didn't think he had that kind of pop from him. That was very, very
No.
unexpected. And anytime you can get home runs from your shortstop, I always said it's almost just like icing on the cake. And when you get 2 of them, it really kind of felt like one. And then in the ninth, A&M had the go-ahead run at the plate. So, it was just one of those ones where it was a baseball night. I think that this was kind of a good wake up call. Josh Stewart and Caden Wilson both pitched one batter each, and then Brad Rudis was the one who kind of brought us home there, kept the Aggies in the game. Then on Saturday, Justin Lampkin, he went 3 innings. Shane Sadejo worked 3 1/3. That was kind of his longest outing of the year. Evan Aschenbach was, I think, uncharacteristically just not himself. He went 1 1/3, 3 runs, 2 hits. Peary came in, got that final out. And again, this was one where I think the offense really kind of struggled. Lavalette struck out a lot. Braden Montgomery was not himself this weekend. And again, do you think that this moves Shane Sadejo into the starter role? Like, this seemed like he kind of let it all out there. 3 1/3 seems like his longest stuff. Do you think it's going to be him that gets that kind of Sunday role?
Honestly, I still think we're going to see Tanner Jones this upcoming Sunday. I know that Tanner, I think he had a much better outing against LSU than he did against Georgia. Not a great outing by any means for Jones. I still think he was much better than he was against Georgia. But as far as Sadeo, I really think that we need to keep him in the bullpen just because he is such a solid bullpen arm. I mean, anytime he comes to the mound, he's kind of like a mini version of Evan Ostenbeck. Like, for the most part, when he comes to the mound, you know that things are really going to kind of settle out. You know that he's really going to dominate the zone. I mean, I know that he struggled earlier in the year with giving up some runs, giving up some hits when he came in as a bullpen arm. But I think as a reliever, I think he just has that kind of reliever and that kind of dog mentality to come in at the end and finish, or even come in the middle and then finish out the game and help us to get that win. I think when he started last year, it was good. Like, he was good when he started in his starts last year, but I think that he's just so much better as a bullpen arm. And I've listened to Schloss on Texags. He really, I mean, he just talks about just the attitude that Shane has as a bullpen arm versus what he had as a starter. And I really just think he's a much better bullpen arm.
Yeah, I was going to kind of say the same thing. In that Evan Aschenbach role, he really does kind of thrive, I think, when there's a lot of people on base. He comes in the middle of the innings. Again, Lampkin was really good, too, until he wasn't. They kind of jumped on him for 4 runs there in the middle of the innings. His defense didn't really bail him out. I know the one with Targash was ruled an error, but that one really wasn't on him. Offensively, Jace Lavalette, again, really struggled, but he did have that kind of RBI there late. And again, Caden Sorrell put a good swing on the ball there in the top of the ninth. You really can't complain about the offense there. The defense was just a little bit uncharacteristic. But, going forward, I really liked what I saw from Shane Staho. I think he's going to fit kind of in the Saturday version of Evan Aschenbach, which, again, you almost need 6, 7 pitchers to get to Omaha, especially if you get on the wrong side of one of those regionals. So I think that this was kind of one of those weekends where you learned a lot about them. And then on Sunday, Tanner Jones went 2 2/3, 3 innings. Chris Cortez went 4 1/3, 1 earned run. Caden Wilson again faced 2 batters, walked both of them. And then Evan Asterback came in the ninth to kind of close it down. I mean, this one, the first 3 innings of it, you were kind of like, oh, this is more of the same from this offense. And then they had that 9-run outburst, and then the Caden Kent grand slam to kind of put a cherry on top. But do you worry about this offense? I know that feels weird to say as they're a top 5 team in home runs, but they struck out a lot this weekend against LSU. Is that something that kind of worries you?
Yeah, honestly, I think that this weekend overall was very, very uncharacteristic. I mean, I think we had, 39 strikeouts throughout all 3 games, 39, 40 strikeouts. I mean, that was just so uncharacteristic of us, but I actually was kind of glad that we lost this series to LSU.
I know that feels weird to say. I saw a lot of people saying that.
Like I knew that we were either going to lose the series to Ole Miss or LSU. Like it just felt like we were due. And I look at that and kind of think of that kind of hot, cold, hot theory that everyone talks about in terms of baseball. Like, the nice thing is about this offense, and one of the reasons why I don't think I really worry about the offense is just because the depth of that our offense goes when Beamont's struggling, when, Jace Laviolette's struggling. There's so many other people down the line. I mean, Caden Sorrell is the one that started off that 9-run inning with the triple, and then it was like he jumpstarted the offense, and it was really kind of the lower half of the order that did some damage in that 9-run inning. I mean, Jace and Braden didn't really do much.
And Shot had the triple too. I didn't think he had that one in him at all. Yeah. I think it was a stand-up triple too as well.
Yep.
He made it pretty easy. Again, I kind of feel the same way that you felt. I mean, they did a lot of things uncharacteristic. I mean, obviously Christian Little for LSU was just tremendous, but again, Gavin Grahovic was chasing a lot early in the counts, chasing sliders in and out of the zone. And then we saw in the midweek against Rice as he hit 400 feet that he still can hit sliders really, really well. But that's going to be something to track with Ole Miss, is because I'm sure that they're going to pitch Braden Montgomery, Jason Lavalette, Gavin Grahovic the same ways. So, can they make adjustments in the plate? And I think Braden can. I think that one's a given. But, Grahovic, there's not really a big sample size from him. He's been hitting monster tape measure shots. So it's going to be interesting to see, can he kind of lay off those? Because, again, we saw it 2 years ago with A&M that they love to kind of work these counts. And Sauce said it on Sunday, too. I think everybody outside of Jackson Appel hits better, deeper in counts. Like, they have the data on that at this point in the season. So, again, A&M, they won their midweeks. So they're undefeated in their midweeks. 1-2 against LSU, but again, the Sunday kind of makes you feel a lot better about the weekend. You almost kind of not necessarily forget that they lost it, but definitely kind of that one. We'll touch briefly on Rice. What did you see from Rice on Tuesday? Just kind of more of the same. They just got outclassed.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was one of those games that you needed. You needed coming in, losing 2 to LSU. You had that great Sunday game, and I think you just needed to carry that confidence over. I think Rice came in. Granted, I know their record is like 19-28 or whatever on the season, but I know that they had won I think 11 of the last 12 games coming into this game.
I'll correct you there just because I've kind of been following Rice a little bit. They won 6 straight AAC.
Okay.
They've done nothing before and they've done nothing since. It's almost like a Wayne Graham era just personified. They don't really have a ton of pop at the plate, but they'll almost single you to death. But again, credit to A&M. I mean, Brad Rudas threw a lot. They're meaningful innings at this point in the season. And again, we got to see kind of a little bit into Schloss's how he's going to handle first base with Ted Burton. I think being out at least this weekend, it would really kind of shock me if he does play. I mean, I think we'll see Caden Kent and Bender up. I think they'll platoon there. We might see Shot somewhere and then Burton DH, but again, I don't think Schloss wants to risk Ted Burton or bring him back any faster than he needs to.
Yeah.
I know Caden Kent's kind of always been a guy without a position. How do you feel about him playing first base? Because I know that was something that they're working on in BP. I think that is going to kind of be the plan there.
Yeah, honestly, I have zero doubts about Caden Kent being able to play first base. I mean, just watching it, how versatile and just how good he is playing some of the other positions. I think that Schloss had said that he has played every single position so far with last season or this season at some point. And it's kind of crazy just watching how good he is and how much better he's getting at the plate, even just in the small sample size that we have that we've had with him this season. But I feel very comfortable with him there. I honestly feel a little bit more comfortable with Caden there than I do with Binderup. Binderup, I think he is going to be really, really good. I think he just still needs a little bit more time to develop, where I think Caden is a little bit farther along in terms of his how he is at the plate. And I think that Caden can handle the balls really well when he's on first base. And I feel a lot more comfortable, I think, with Kent there versus Binderup.
Yeah, I was going to kind of feel the same way. I mean, Binderup early in the season obviously had a big glaring hole in his swing, and we've seen in SEC play that they really have exploited that. He did have those 2 hits that were kind of backside. I can be honest, though, I didn't think the second one had the carry that it did when we were sitting there in person. It just kept carrying and carrying, carrying. Then the other one, he really kind of stayed on it. But, I think Caden Kent, against righties, I feel a lot better about him. So again, with Ole Miss, do they kind of go with a more lefty heavy lineup now that, to keep Caden Kent out of there? That's going to be the one thing to track. And then again, when do we kind of see Ted Burton get back? Because I think he is kind of, he's mainstay in the lineup. He takes really, really quality at bats. He's kind of a captain out there on the field. That's going to be the one thing to track with that. Moving on into the weekend, they did announce the probable starters. It is Ryan Prager versus Riley Maddox. Justin Lampkin on Saturday versus Liam Doyle, and then everybody's favorite TBA for Texas A&M versus Mason Nichols. Some notes: Andrew Fisher has homered in 4 straight games. Will Furness is their leading hitter, and then Luke Hill, the Arizona State transfer, is still kind of been one of their better hitters as well. Is Sloss playing mind games, you think, on Sunday, or do you think we see Chris Cortez in that Sunday role?
Honestly, I think that Cortez, and this is very similar. I think I have a very similar mindset with Cortez that I do as Sadeo. Just Cortez as a reliever has been so much better, and this season specifically has been so much better. I mean, when Cortez has his stuff, he's nearly unhittable. When he is dominating the zone and he has his stuff on, it is so hard to hit off of him. I think that putting him as a starter, again, I think it's just such a different mentality you have as a starter versus going in as a bullpen arm. And I think that he's just such a valuable piece now, this late into the season, as a bullpen arm, that I still think we're going to see Tanner Jones. I think that Cortez is probably going to have a longer outing because I think Jones is, and like we saw on Sunday, like Jones is.
He went 4 1/3, and he did tire there. That's the one thing you worry about Chris Cortez is he throws so hard, and that is a big part of his game as he starts to tire. I'm really interested to see kind of how they attack this weekend because he mentioned it against Georgia that they're not really going to have a third starter. They're just going to try and win games. So I wonder if that's going to be kind of the thing that they go. So we might see Evan Ashton stretched out. We might see Shane Sadeo stretched out like we saw last weekend. I think that that's what they're going to more employ is obviously Prager is going to be the Friday night guy. And then everybody else, I think, is going to be fighting for innings and fighting for outs. And then, Rudis has been a lot better this year, too. That's kind of the one big surprise that everybody kind of forgets about him. Weston Moss is still a guy who throws 98 out of the pen and a big 6'6" guy. I really like where A&M sits with the bullpen standpoint. I think it's top 5 in the country is what I was reading.
Yeah.
But again, A&M has been really good on the road. Their 2 series, I think they actually have the best record in the SEC road-wise. Yeah. Obviously, they played Florida and LSU are their 2 losses. But again, they went to South Carolina, won those games. So there's a lot to like about how they play on the road. And they really are very loose going forward. But I really, really like them. Again, Braden Montgomery sitting 342 despite going over on the weekend. I think it's kind of a safe bet to assume he bounces back. But here's your question. Who do you think A&M's highest batting average hitter is right this second on May 9th? Because this one kind of surprised me.
Is it not Appel?
It is Appel. He's hitting 344, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I knew that he was just right above because Beaumont was batting, going into LSU, he was batting, 374? And now I know it dropped quite a bit because he didn't have a single hit at LSU.
Yeah. Ted Burton is the lowest number at 298, which is still just an insane thing to kind of think about. But his OPS is over 1. Ali Camarillo and Hayden Schott's OPSs are both under 2. But again, they're both hitting over 320. I mean, it is just a fight at the bat rack. It seems like every time A&M gets on.
It's absolutely unreal. I think kind of going back to what you said about this Ole Miss weekend, I think it is going to be a very, very interesting weekend in terms of how we bounce back from last week. Just having a very, very uncharacteristic 2 games I'm very intrigued to see how they do against Ole Miss, because Ole Miss right now is fighting for a spot in the SEC tournament. And I mean, so they're going to be playing very similarly to LSU, not
Mhm.
as close with their backs against the wall, but I mean, they still kind of have their backs against the wall. They have something
I
to
think
prove.
they're out. They're strictly out. They need this is one of those ones where you almost, if you're A&M, you want to come out, punch them in the mouth Friday and Saturday, and they'll
Yeah.
probably fold up to 10 on Sunday, and you can leave with 3 wins. Like,
Yep.
they sit at 9-15, and I am going to pull up that graphic that ESPN always shows. I screenshotted it so I can reference it. Where is it? Yeah. 13 wins is 38% of the time. 14 wins is 70% of the time. They have 6 left, so they really need to go 5-1 the last time down the stretch to feel really good, because they're not really like LSU where they had a really good out of conference. They have a really high
Yeah.
RPI. They're 23-25 overall. Like, if they're under 500 period, like, they're definitely definitively out. So again, this is one where if A&M comes out, punches them in the mouth, dominates them, like, and that's the other thing is Ole Miss is such a fair weather fan base that if you beat them on Friday, like, it's not gonna, or yeah, if you beat them on Friday, it's not gonna be a tough atmosphere. Like, we've all seen the pictures of no one out there in the outfield. Like, I think that this is one where it could get really ugly for Ole Miss really fast. And again,
Yeah.
Mike Bianco, it seems like he always does just enough to kind of stay in the good graces. That's the only thing that really kind of scares me, is he always does just enough. And I feel like if he sweeps A&M or takes 2 of 3 from A&M, he'll do just enough to kind of keep his job.
Yeah, and that's one thing that worries me a little bit. Like they don't have something to put. I think they do have something to prove. But I think one thing that's really going to benefit us is that they had that 15 outing game against Murray State last night.
Yeah,
I mean,
and again, Georgia did the same thing when they came, and we saw how their pitching kind of carried out. Like, their ace that came in the ninth, he only got to throw those 2 innings. If they would have used him a lot earlier, I think that would have been a really big key. Let me see. Ole Miss sits at an RPI of 28 too, so they are a little bit down there in RPI. They would be the highest ranked RPI team that's left out, but again, they do not have a path, I don't think, to get to those wins that
yeah.
they need. So again, come out, punch them in the mouth. Prager throws 6 innings, 3 hits. I think that they'll kind of fold the tent. But bold prediction time. Who do you think breaks out this weekend for A&M? It was Ted Burton 2 weeks ago. It was Ali Camarillo last weekend. Who do you think kind of breaks out and returns to form this weekend?
Honestly, I think that we're going to continue to see the development of Caden Sorrell. He is probably one of my favorite players on the team, because he is subtly having, granted, he's not necessarily having the massive year that Gavin Grahovac is, but I think a lot of people tend to forget that Sorrell's still a freshman, and the things that he does in the outfield. I mean, that friggin' amazing sliding catch he had against Rice to save a couple runs, and just the jump start of the offense against LSU. We started that 9-run inning with the triple. I think there's just so many little things that he does. I think we're going to continue to see his development, and I think he's really going to have a great, great weekend.
Yeah, he's hitting 309, and it feels like he was under 280 for a lot of the season. As I pull up the
Yeah.
stats here, just to kind of confirm that. I mean, he's been red hot the last couple weekends, and he always seems to kind of find himself in these kind of at bats to score runs, and that's something that A&M didn't really have last year. Like, I think they've had somebody like him really step up, and again, it does turn this lineup over really fast. And I mean, it's a scary lineup. Travis Chestnut down there in the 8-9 hole, he does a lot of things really well too as well. I I think he's my back. Obviously, Braden Montgomery's kind of the low hanging fruit bounce back one, but I think Travis Chestnut. I think he plays better defensively. I think he kind of becomes the rock that he was at the start of the season. Yeah. So since May 20th, he was hitting 265, and now he's hitting 310. So he's been on a tear the last couple weeks. It peaked at 315 against Georgia. So again, he's starting to see the ball well. I know that he was getting lefty heavy to start the year, and they worked really hard on him all fall because as he said, he just didn't see a lot of lefty pitching because he
Yep.
always saw righties. I think he said his dad threw right-handed, his high school coach threw right-handed. So just seeing those live lefty at bats in college, I think has been the biggest key for him going forward.
Yeah, I'm super excited to continue to see his development. I think too, I mean, how about Travis Chestnut? He's probably been my biggest surprise on the season, honestly. I mean, I would watch him take some at bats the last couple of years. Like he would either be a pinch hitter or a pinch runner. But there were some things that I think he's under talked about in how special he is. Like you said, him and Caden in that 8-9 hole really, really are very good at turning the lineup over to Braden Jason or Gavin Jason Braden. I mean,
Yeah,
phenomenal.
and I mean, you can almost run out of superlatives talking about those three guys. I actually did hear a rumor from a scout that Braden might go 1-1 as kind of an underslot, and then Jace is obviously 1-1 next year projected. So I mean, that'd be crazy just to have two 1-1 picks. It is a
Yeah.
very, very real possibility right now with A&M.
Yeah, that would be really. I think that would be really nice, especially a really good bounce back from the season we had last year. I mean, just this season has been incredible, and then having two 1-1 picks would be.
Yeah, he would be the highest position player since Tyler Naquin, who's I believe retired from Major League Baseball. So it's been a long, long time. Well, I think that's all we have time for again. We're going to be doing this every Thursday at around 7:30, 7:15, just depending on traffic in Houston as it's terrible. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
Alrighty.